We are now recording the Wharf District Council meeting for the month of April. And we had some changes to the agenda. I think perhaps you've all updated, but we had some changes. Some folks were not able to join us, and so we will update them on that. But we will start out with, as we always do, welcoming Captain Puopolo and Sergeant Moy, and they can give us an update on how things are going, if anybody's actually in the Wharf District these days.
Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm not sure. Is the captain on by chance? He said he would try to make it. I know he's tied up with some other stuff, but I don't see him on. Does anyone else?
No, he's not.
I did not.
Okay. All right. He must be tied up with the other. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us here. And like Mark said, there are folks, I drive by the Greenway every day and I do see people out and about. So to Mark's point, there are people alive and well and walking around the wharf and enjoying the weather. It's getting warmer out. So before I jump into the stats, there's two quick things I want to bring up. One, there's a scam going around. People are calling folks pretending to be National Grid employees. I'm not sure if folks have heard about this on the news, but they're calling folks pretending to be employees of National Grid, telling folks that they're haven't paid their bill. They need to send money via an app to National Grid soon, or their power will be turned off. Usually it's like an hour or 2 hours. So folks need to be aware of that. I'm not sure, Suzanne, if you could put that on the newsletter or something like that. But I've talked to National Grid myself. I've talked to a representative of National Grid. National Grid will never tell you that turning your power off within an hour or even within a half a day. They give you plenty of notice by mail that you're overdue and stuff like that. There are plenty of warnings that they give out before they actually go ahead and turn off power. And two, they will never ask you to send money via some app on your phone. So just be aware of that we've already gotten phone calls regarding people have been scammed. People have sent money. Your best course of action is you get it, just hang up. So with that moving on, if anyone has any questions about that, you can either reach me offline or ask me after I go through the stats. The next thing is everyone knows the governor's mask mandate for outdoors will be lifted on Friday. So that's I'm going to go and say that's good news. Some folks I've talked to, and there's some anxiety out there. I get it. And, you watch the news, and I try not to watch much news, but with the variants across the world, and so there are some anxieties. But even though the mask mandate's being lifted for outdoors on Friday, I tell folks if you're still not comfortable and you want to wear masks, there's nothing wrong with that. So feel free. That's up to you. But I'm just letting folks know that the mask mandate for outdoors is lifted on Friday. So those are the two things I had. I think Frank Champ is on the call too. But with that, I'll jump into the stats. As previous months, it's somewhat light, and there are some incidents that are on the fringe of the Wharf District. But I think it's kind of important to bring up just so folks are aware of what's going on and have an idea. So I'll start off with the furthest one out, which was March 25th at about 2:00 in the morning. This was at 3 Battery Wharf for a hotel, domestic, 2 males fighting. The hotel called 911. Officers arrived on scene. 2 males who were in a dating relationship were drinking, and one thing led to another, and words were exchanged, and a physical altercation ensued. 1 male received a minor laceration to his forehead. Officers did witness the room to be disheveled. There was a smashed cell phone on the floor and food thrown about. The other male, who was the suspect, was placed under arrest for domestic abuse on a 209A. And the victim was brought to Tufts Medical for treatment. And moving on to the next, at April 11th at about 5 in the morning, officers responded to 85 East India Road for 2 females and a male that were highly intoxicated. One female had called 911 saying that they were basically kidnapped by this male. Officers opened the door to the bedroom, found the male laying in the bed. Quick investigation ensued, and he stated that he had met these 2 females at a bar, paid for drinks and dinner, They invited him back to their room, and there was never any kind of physical altercation. He was not holding them hostage. That he felt that he was just he was getting scammed out of paying for dinner and stuff like that. And one of the females actually said that she had no idea what was going on, that she was not being held captive. So long story short, he was some personal information was taken regarding him, and he was driven back to the Liberty Hotel, where he, I assume, slept it off for the rest of the day. Moving on to the next. So folks might have heard about this. This is there was a found body at 60 State Street on April 19th at about 7:45 in the morning. Officers responded to that scene. Security had called the rear of 60 State Street. They had found a non-viable male who was slumped over. Security from that building had said that they had seen him earlier in the evening, kind of staggering around. And when the security officer went back to do his rounds in the morning, he had found the male unconscious and non-viable. And officers responded, detectives responded, crime scene showed up. The medical examiner took custody of the deceased. And at the crime scene they did find a crumpled up dollar bill that had unknown white substance inside. Obviously, that was collected as evidence, and that's sent out to be tested to see what that was. And I'm sure there's an autopsy involved here as well. So this is kind of something we've seen throughout the district. Folks are out there kind of on their own, kind of on the fringes of they're homeless, they're unemployed. It didn't help that some folks, the folks that deserve the stimulus check from the president, that's great. But some of these folks that were homeless, that had an address, also got stimulus checks, and we're seeing a lot of that money being funneled into drugs. So that's the downside of this. So we're seeing some of that across the district and frankly citywide. Moving on to the next, on April 22nd at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 177 State Street. Unknown male walked into the 7-Eleven. He tried to cash a non-winning lottery ticket. The clerk happened to be an Asian male who refused to cash a ticket because it wasn't a winner. Words were exchanged. Some racial slurs were exchanged as well. And that suspect fled the area before officers arrived. So we're seeing a lot of this as well. What's going on in California, New York City, and stuff like that is kind of coming our way as well. We haven't had anything too serious. It's been a lot of verbal back and forth between folks and whatever they feel about Asian people. So we've seen that through the district for the past couple of months. Some of it is kind of tough to investigate because there is protected speech. So some of these might be untasteful, but in the eyes of the law, it doesn't cross the line to a hate crime. So, but moving on to the next, on April 24th at about almost midnight, officers were called in 179 Commercial Street. 2 victims had called 911 saying that an unknown male who was walking up the street approached them, said that he had a handgun and threatened to shoot them. Officers arrived on scene, found the suspect across the street, interviewed the suspect, found no weapons. The suspect did admit to having some kind of mental illness he was a war veteran. He suffered from mental illness. So officers contacted EMS, who came to the scene and took him in for evaluation. So hopefully he's getting some help for his illness. And moving on to the last one, April 24th at about 6:30 in the evening, Black Rose at 160 State Street, for a customer that came in already intoxicated without a mask. We've seen a lot of this as well. The manager of the Black Rose tells the patron to put on a mask. Obviously, the patron's intoxicated already. Words were exchanged, threats were exchanged. He did leave. The suspect did leave prior to police arrival. Officers got a good description. Officers left as well, but then about an hour later, they responded back to 160 State Street. Again, they found the suspect, talked to the suspect, made it clear that he wasn't welcome at the Black Rose, and they let him go on his own for a second time. And officers went back for a third time. So I have to say the officers had a lot of patience here, but at the end of the call, they basically placed this guy under arrest for assault and battery, trespassing, and disturbing the peace. So he had plenty of warning. I always tell officers it's very tough to reason with someone who's intoxicated. So at the end of the day, he was placed under arrest and taken into custody. So those were what I wanted to pass on. Those were the highlights of the past month. It's always funny, after I go through the stats, I kind of look at the screen and everyone has this kind of blank look. So, but hopefully it's not too, the Wharf District is in a good spot. Those are just some of the crazy stuff that happened that, I just want to pass on. But the Wharf District Council meeting is one of the ones I look forward to because the stats aren't that crazy. So, so if there's any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to take questions.
I have a question. At the recent Greenway meeting, there was mention of people sleeping on the Greenway near Dewey Square. Is that,
Yeah.
somebody said, yeah? Somebody's on a phone here, I think.
Go ahead. I'm trying to mute people when I see that. Go ahead.
Okay, it's a phone, though. It's not a Zoom, so.
Yep.
But Sergeant Moy, I'm just wondering, is that within your jurisdiction, and are you aware that there seems to be an issue with
Yeah,
sleep
so
on the Greenway?
yeah, so I didn't know that it had already spilled over to Dewey Square. So I've talked to the Federal Reserve Police across from Dewey Square. I've talked to the Transit Police who cover South Station. And I've talked to the security director, I think it's Citizens Bank across from South Station. So in the evening, in the late evening and during the overnight hour, there is a group of homeless folks that are camping out in the ATM vestibule. So one of the things that I think Citizens did was that they started locking it down to all people.
Mark, you just muted Sergeant Moy.
Yeah, things. I'm sorry. Hang on a second. He's a cell phone.
No, he isn't. Oh, his sound may be a cell.
Oh, can you hear me? I unmuted
Yeah,
myself.
you're yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And Mark, I don't take that personally that you muted me.
Now, there's a person named Charlie. Charlie, if you could mute, I can't mute you for some reason. If you could mute.
So I'm not sure where I got cut off, but I'll repeat myself. So yes, I am aware of it. I've been talking to the Federal Reserve Police, Transit Police from South Station, security director from Citizens Bank across from South Station. We are aware of a group that during the late evening into the overnight hours, they have been sleeping in front of South Station, sleeping in the ATM vestibule, and spilling over. Now, you're telling me that they're spilling over into Dewey Square, which I'm not surprised, because when they were all sleeping inside the ATM at Citizens, I had talked to their security director, and one of the solutions we came up with was that because the foot traffic is so low during the overnight hours, they decided to lock the ATM to everyone. So now at like 10:30 in the evening at night, the ATM is now locked down, so the homeless can't get into sleep. So that pushed some of them to South Station on the outside of the platform there. And I assume it's spilling over to Dewey Square. So on the same day, I knew that would happen. So today there was a call with Pine Street and some outreach folks that was brought up that that area could use some attention from the outreach folks. So we kind of let them do their thing first before the police come in, and we don't want to go in and start displacing people before they can actually get their 2 cents in, because we would just end up moving them to some other place. So I'd rather them be engaged by outreach, and if they refuse it, and then obviously then we come in and we have to do what we have to do, either move them along, or if there's a crime involved, obviously most folks for the minor crimes these days are getting summons into court. But so to answer your question in the short term, yes, we are aware of it. We are attempting to address it. I know Trina from the Greenway, she usually keeps me quite abreast of what's going on in the Greenway. So I'm not sure if that's an answer. I'm not sure if it's a good answer, but
It's a good answer. So
Yeah,
we'll
that's
follow
great.
up.
Great.
Thank you.
no worries.
Thank you very much. And the blank stares are not because we're not interested. It's that we are glad that there is as little drama as there is. Thank you for keeping it that way.
No worries. Thank you so much, Mark. And like I said, any questions offline, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than available.
Sergeant Moy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the discussion of an entertainment license at 4 Liberty Square, and Attorney Mike Brangwin, I think, is going to take us through this conversation. Is that right?
Yes. Hello, members of the council. Attorney Mike Brangwin from the law office, Fletcher Tilton. With me today in my office, Anthony DePinto. He's
Hi, everybody.
here
Hi.
with me to answer any of your questions. And you may recall, we were before the council about, I think it was about a month ago.
It
Because
was.
this licensee, 22 Friends Inc. is the licensee that's before you, had applied for a transfer from their current location, which is at 22 Friends Street, has the name, to 4 Liberty Square. And some of you, if you all are around the neighborhood, may see that they're putting in a new establishment there. We talked a little bit about what's the proposed the venue, I guess, the theme, which I'll let Anthony, he can kind of talk a little bit more about that. I know you all probably are familiar because we talked about it last month, but for anybody that missed that hearing, we'll talk a little bit about the restaurant that's going in there. But we received the support of the council to go forward with the change of location license application with the Boston Licensing Board. And it's my understanding from speaking with the council that the process for entertainment is separate, that you all like to have applicants come back and have a separate discussion about entertainment. So we do want to get everything, all of our ducks lined up, I guess, because the 22 Friends Inc. and Anthony and his team are excited to get open, and they're hoping to get open as soon as they can. So we wanted to come back, talk about what we propose for entertainment. Really what we're proposing is essentially the exact same as what was in there under the old operator, which was it Vault, Anthony, was the last?
Vanderbilt was the most recent.
Vanderbilt.
It was the vault before Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt was the most recent, and this space has a long history of having these types of establishments, a restaurant with entertainment, some small amount of live entertainment. The last license was a 2 a.m. ABCV license, which is the same license that was transferred to this location, a 2 a.m. ABCV license. The applicant, 22 Friends Inc., certainly they don't plan on being open till 2 a.m. every night. It wouldn't really make sense from a business perspective, particularly where it's much more of a restaurant-centered kind of venue. But they would likely stay open, certain nights, most likely the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or if there's a big sporting event or something like that. We are looking to have 10 large widescreen televisions. And then the entertainment that was approved at the prior use was one jukebox. We don't know that we necessarily will have what's considered a jukebox, but we don't want to kind of rule that out because there is the touch screen music choice types options that we may want to use. Radio, live music up to 4 participants, vocal and instrumental, DJ up to 1, and CD player 1. And also dancing 1 is the way the previous entertainment license reads. This restaurant doesn't have a dance floor, so we don't really anticipate much in the way of dancing. It's again not really that type of venue. There is some event space downstairs, but we don't anticipate much dancing. But again, if somebody were to get up or dance or whatever the case may be, we don't want to get in any trouble for that. So I'll let Anthony talk a little bit more just to remind you all about the concept, and we're happy to answer any questions. Here's Anthony.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
So basically what we're building is an authentic Southern cuisine restaurant with a, I don't even want to say lounge, but yeah, with a lounge vibe to it. So something that, you know, not expensive where you can't eat there 4 days a week, but not a Chili's either. So, you know, a comparable would be something like a Lolita or a Muriel or something along those lines, but with a cuisine that does not exist in the financial district or even in the seaport at this time. So homemade Southern fried chicken wings, steak tips from a local butcher. Our burger meat actually comes from that same butcher. Homemade mac and cheese and cornbread, real authentic Southern feel. So, you know, our lunch menu will be slightly different because we'll add salads and more to the demand of the financial district as the people start to go back to work. With the big screen TVs, you know, the reason we're asking for the license and what we're asking for, if the Patriots are playing a Monday night football game, we want the ability to serve our customers if we have customers. But our intentions are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you know, open at 11 for lunch, close at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock after dinner is over. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we may do some nightlife stuff. And then Sunday, we intend to do a brunch. So barring a Sunday night Bruins playoff game or a Celtics game or a Patriots game, will probably be closed real early on Sundays. So things that we've had success in the past with, which is kind of why we're asking for some live entertainment. We were working with 4 gentlemen from Berkeley. They would play live jazz to our dinner hour patrons. So things of that nature. During the Bruins playoff run, when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago, we brought in an acoustic guitar singer for pregame. So that's just kind of the things that we need to implement our business plan and serve our customers, you know, to maximize serving our customers, give them the best experience. Any questions, please feel free.
I have a question.
Please.
Would you use promoters and cater to, say, the late night crowd, like people who come in around 10?
So the short answer is no. So at this venue, we have no intentions of using outside promotions companies to build that late night crowd. No. We intend on building a lunch after work crowd, and that should build people to stay a little bit longer and stay a little bit later. So that's no, that is not in our business plan. Anybody else?
Yeah, other questions that people might have, you know, you obviously, we look forward to enjoying the cuisine and the entertainment. I'm sure there is a concern that we all share about, you know, what happens late night when people are spilling out after having had too much to drink. And I think that people do tend to stay later if there's entertainment. So if you could help us to understand how you are going to be set up to make sure that we don't have the kinds of problems that could occur.
Sure. So beyond the fact that I've actually personally been serving alcohol since 1998, and we have a rigorous training program of our staff for late night events or when we stay open late, we have plenty of security both inside and outside with a plan in place to make sure that things get de-escalated before they escalate. And that's kind of how we ran things for the last 4 years over in the West End and how we want to run things here. Now, we did use promoters in the West End, but myself and my business partners understand the neighborhood we're moving into and the opportunity that we have over here. So we have altered our business plan knowing where we are.
Okay. May I suggest, since this is, I think, our number one concern to the extent that we have one, is that we, if you could share with us your staffing plan for your security, and that our endorsement of this entertainment license would be contingent upon that staffing plan being maintained. I think that would be an important thing for us.
Sure. So one of my business partners actually owns a security company and does quite a bit of business in town. So he handles all our security concerns. But just to relate it to our old location, we had an occupancy of 273. The occupancy here is 270. We had 8 security guards for late night, and they were strategically positioned. Now, understanding that our old location had a dance floor, we do not have a dance floor. I cannot reiterate that enough. There is no dance floor built, no dance floor space in this location, which does tend to elevate people's heart rates and so on and so forth. And that's when things can get out of control. So I can't speak for him, but I can tell you that that is what he does for his profession. And in our old location, we had 8 security guards on for late night. So they were strategically placed to make sure that there was not an inch of the place that was not protected or secure, or to keep things from elevating out of control.
Okay, if you could just give us that staffing plan in writing, please.
Of course.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, we can certainly provide that. And if the council wants to, we have the plan in writing, and I can get that to Suzanne or whoever
Terrific.
the person would be. We'll get
Suzanne.
that so you can take a look.
Great. I think that will help us all, and you know, you will have to come back to us on some sort of regular basis, I understand. Isn't that correct, that don't you have to come back on some kind of regular basis to make sure that things are, or not?
No.
I don't think so. I
Oh,
could be
that's
wrong.
only when we make that contingent, right?
But the other
Okay.
thing I wanted to add certainly is that I know, Anthony, you'll see him around, and I think what he will tell you is that they are looking to be kind of a responsible member of the business community.
Great.
So if you all want to be in touch with him, and if you have a concern that maybe hasn't risen to the level where, we certainly want to have open lines of communication, so we don't, have some issue that we are unaware of, or that somebody
Sure.
has a concern about.
That's great, and we appreciate that. We just want that security in writing as a part of
Sure.
our endorsement. What other questions might anybody have?
So, hey, Mark, I got my hand raised, if you don't
Yes.
mind.
Yes, you do. There you go.
Yeah, so I just want to echo what Mark just said. So from a police standpoint, that's the same concerns we have regarding late night. That's great that you can have 8 security members on late night. Most of the things that I see when I work the midnight shift is that, we have a lot of employee on patron assault and batteries. I'm not sure, I don't know how your security outfit works, but a lot of the security folks that work the late night establishments, we don't want to see any heavy-handedness going on. Drunk patrons, can get under your skin, and you try to take the higher road and just ask them to leave. But so we don't want to see any of that. And we also some of our concern from the past was that, like Mark said, when he sees your security plan, some of the things that I'm looking for is how often do the bathrooms get checked regarding patrons that may or may not pass out. Also last year or 2 years ago, we had a handful of females that were assaulted sexually at licensed premise establishments. So, I want to make sure that your door people know or keep an eye on who's coming, who's going, who's leaving with who belongs with who came with who, and who should be leaving, with the right people. Because what happened 2 years ago at the Faneuil Hall, we do not want to see repeated. So, obviously, if you have 4 females walking in and you see 1 female leaving with the unknown male, that should raise a red flag, and someone should be stopped and someone should be called. So, without saying too much more, if Mark wants to share that plan with me, I was involved in that that incident 2 years ago at Faneuil Hall. I talked to a lot of the licensed establishment, the Bell in Hand, a lot of the other bars, and we came up with a lot of good ideas that the security staff has implemented. So I just want to throw that out there.
Officer, if I may, we always have one security guard watching the bathrooms. So that was part of our old plan, which we're going to implement in our new location to start there. All of our security guards pass a query check. So, we are also seeing who we are hiring or, who we may be bringing in. And then I'm going to have my business partner draw up the plan. But to go back to what Mike said, the lines of communication are open. We are open to hear anything to make us, a good business partner in the neighborhood, because we see it as a real opportunity down there.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to getting that plan from you.
Great.
And responding. We'll, for those of you who are members of the Wharf District Council, we'll ask you to stay on after the general meeting to vote on as an executive committee on our position on this. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. We are now going to hear another application for an entertainment license from Joe's American Bar and Grill on the waterfront. Who is, let's see, we have Marcy Costa is going to address us, I guess. Is that right, Marcy?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
Please go ahead.
Hello, members of the council. I also have Samantha Reynolds on the call somewhere with me. She is the manager over at Joe's Waterfront. We are here today to present you with have submitted an application to the licensing board for an amendment to a non-live entertainment license that already exists at the premises. So currently they do have non-live entertainment indoors, and they are asking to place 3 speakers outdoors for their patio seating. I'm sure if you've walked around Christopher Columbus Park or the Harbor Walk, you've seen Joe's Waterfront. They have a really extensive patio with a lot of seating. It has 80 seats. So this application is asking to extend their non-live entertainment from indoors to outdoors.
Thank you. I know that Cheryl DeGreco is on the line. Cheryl, did you? And by the way, may I say that Cheryl, representing the residents of the North End, has been a wonderful partner to the Wharf District in many of our conversations as we have been talking about State Street and our common interests between the North End and Wharf District. And so Cheryl is always welcome at our meetings, and we're eager to hear what you have today, because you're really right on the edge.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I want you to know there are at least 17 owners, residents of Commercial Wharf on this call this evening on the Wharf District. And I think it's incumbent upon us, if it's okay with you, Mark and Suzanne, to hear from some of them, because they live right next door to where the music will be playing. And there has been a lot of real serious concern about added noise coming from the park. I believe that there are more than 3 speakers that were installed. I mean, I'd like to let the people who are really impacted, if you don't mind. I mean,
Please.
Eileen Gladstone, you're on. You live down there. You want to go? You want to speak?
Sure. Thanks, Cheryl. I do live on Commercial Wharf. I live at 33 Commercial Wharf, and I have a floor through. And my living room basically overlooks Joe's. It's also where my balcony is. And I'm up on the 5th floor, and I am really concerned about having outdoor music basically underneath my living room and my balcony. I'm really, I mean, as it is, as Cheryl said, we already live with a lot of noise from the park. I understand that. It's obviously, a very important part of the neighborhood. It has lots of visitors. And that's part of, an active city and a vibrant city, is to have a lot of activity in the park. But for there to be music basically underneath residences' homes and balconies that I don't even know what type of hours you're talking about. I assume you're talking about from, 11 o'clock in the morning when you start serving lunch through 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'm just terrified, frankly, that from April through October, I won't be able to sit in my living room with my windows open. I won't be able to watch TV, have a quiet evening at home. I won't be able to sit on my balcony and just enjoy sitting outside. I'm very concerned about having music from Joe's from all day long. I mean, I've lived on Commercial Wharf long enough that I remember when Joe's first opened and there were huge lines for a new exciting restaurant. I get that, but that noise was just unbearable. And as I said, having music piped outside during all the time that that the weather is good is just going to be a huge burden on our community.
Great.
I
Thank
think
you, Eileen.
there may be some other people that want to talk to you. I don't know how much time you have. Is there anybody else with Commercial Wharf?
Yeah, I certainly would like to talk
Yeah.
a little bit about this. So first of all, just for a little bit of background, I grew up in the restaurant business, so I certainly appreciate the need to have a guest experience. But I would say that Joe's, because you were unique and you have outdoor seating, I live, as Eileen does, right near the restaurant. So I, have seen that your business is doing quite well, by the way. Congratulations. Obviously you've got a great location. So if you were to measure from our building to the beginning of your patio, it's like 50 feet. So we're on top of one another. So it is, if it was I don't understand the business logic of needing that at this point. The restaurant does quite well without music, and it really places a burden on the residents. I just don't think for what you're getting and the burden it places on your next door neighbors. I just can't make it work in my own mind that it's something that makes a lot of sense. So I think, as Eileen, has already, articulated, I have a great concern of disrupting the peace of my living space. And once again, my living room basically faces out over your deck, the beginning of the deck where the dumpster is, and then the deck. So, I definitely frequent your restaurant, love the location. So I'm not only a next door neighbor, I'm also a customer. I have great times there, and honestly, I've never missed not having music when I've eaten there myself. So I'm not sure that the additive benefit that you're trying to achieve is, worth the cost of disturbing the neighborhood. So
Great.
that's,
Thank you, Paul.
My 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Paul. Anne Louise, you have your hand up, and I know some other people would like to speak. If you disagree with the points of view that have been expressed so far, we should hear that. If you agree with them, then it would be good to know that as succinctly as makes sense. Go ahead, Em. Louise.
Thank you. I just want to add a little bit of color. I too live at Commercial Wharf, directly next door to Joe's Bar and Grill. And last week and a half ago, Wednesday evening, April 14th, as I was going by at 8 p.m. in the evening, people were dining outside. There were in fact 4 speakers installed. I think, Marcy, you can confirm it. It's not 3, it's 4. And they were on, and music was already playing without the proper authorization in place. So I did contact John Romano, and John's on this call and can vouch for our conversation, to basically report the fact that the speakers were up and running already without this process coming forward as it was planned. And I believe that John probably made a contact with Tiffany or Samantha or both on making sure that they're not using those speakers until this process has been completed. Just let the record reflect I am in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne Louise. I see that Bubba Hagood as well. Is that right?
Bubba, open your mic.
Hey guys, Bubba Hagood at 59 Commercial Wharf. Well, first I'd like to say I love the fact that Joe's is putting money into, sprucing up the place, renovating, fixing broken boards and broken things that occurred in the pandemic. They were closed the entire time and just recently reopened. It's great to see them coming back alive. However, I'm strongly against, the putting, speakers playing on the outside of that building, right on the waterfront. Sound really carries by the water. It is going to be very disruptive. There's already enough sound sources in the area. I certainly don't want this and having to listen to it continually. We, like the peace and quiet out here, and really don't want this disruption to our lives.
Understood. Thank you. Have we heard already from Susan Beran? I think not. Susan, did you want to speak?
Susan, you need to open your mic.
Hey guys, Susan Beran. I also completely agree with what Eileen and Paul and Ann said. I'm at 33. I'm on the top floor. I mean, it's right outside my window. The patio is always busy. I'm not seeing the need for a different way to pull people in. Even if it didn't impact me directly, I feel like that's something that everybody needs to look at. It's like every time you walk by, it's full. And then on top of it now, in our post-COVID world or post-pandemic world, there's going to be more demand, higher demand for outdoor dining without the music. It's just not needed. And honestly, if there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 speakers out there, I mean, there's plenty of bars and restaurants that pipe games over them, not just music. And that's not really, I want to be able to listen to a game if I want to listen to a game, not just because it's right outside my door. And same thing with music. I love live music. I love recorded music at my own option. I don't think that there's any reason to have it. And I think that the fact that they put it up before they asked, follow the proper guidelines is just a slap in everybody's face, to be honest. That's about it. My computer's going to die in about 2 seconds. So
Yeah. Thank you, Susan. I see that Christina Hennessey is also in opposition. And if you want to speak, but we certainly get, I think, Marcy, you're getting the drift here on how the residents feel. We will have if anybody would like to speak in support of the idea, I would like to make sure they have the opportunity. We will be, as I said in the previous one, we will be meeting as members of the Wharf District executive session afterwards to give you our official response. But want to make sure that if anybody else feels that they want to speak or have a different point of view, that they're welcome to do so now.
I think Christina has her hand up.
Yeah, Christina.
Yeah, sorry, Christina, go ahead.
You're on mute.
Open your mic, Christina. Sorry. Open your mic, Christina.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So we were outside this afternoon and there was a Mexican artist playing his guitar. I don't know if anyone else heard that today. Was anybody else out there? Anyway, my point is that, I mean, it's fine to have music, but I guess it's also the quality of music that's going to be played. And to be honest with you, we're just against the whole thing. So that's our 2 cents.
Great.
Was the guitarist affiliated with the restaurant, or was he on?
It was in front of the restaurant, and it was in front of our parking. By the guard gate. By the guard gate. I don't know where this guy came from, but he was playing, and unfortunately it wasn't very good Mexican music. Had it been good Mexican music, I would have enjoyed it, but unfortunately it wasn't. So Anyway, it is what it is. But
we did see him out there today, Christina. Yeah, he was not affiliated with the restaurant, but we did hear him loud and clear. He was just a kind of one-man band out there half the afternoon, but not sure really where he came from.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Thank you very much for letting us speak.
Absolutely. Cheryl, thank you. And thank you all of the folks who are at Commercial Wharf or in the area. It's important for us to hear from you, and hopefully there'll be a point when we will be invited to share our opinions about things that are happening close to us and we look forward to supporting each other. So we will offer you, Marcia, and I think Samantha, our response following the executive committee meeting. And thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We're going to have an update from the Greenway Conservancy. Keelan, are you doing that first?
Yes, sorry. Hi, everybody. I think I'm able to share my screen. Is that right?
Please, if not, let me know.
Okay, let me try that. Can
There we
everyone
go.
see?
Yep.
Okay. Great. Well, it's a pleasure to be here and see a lot of friendly faces. I'm not even sure we came last year in 2020 as we were trying to figure out in April what was even going on. But I wanted to go through just a couple things to expect this season from the program side, and then Lucas will talk about the art. And sorry, my baby is crying in the background if you can hear that. So 2020 was, of course, a very weird year. If I can reflect for a moment, we were still able to open our carousel and our beer gardens and our markets, following all the guidelines. I've spent a lot of time looking at all the specific guidelines and sector specific rules. So we still had about 200 programs last year, but they were all really small scale, the market days were like really tiny performances. So we also pivoted to some online virtual programming. We did a whole series of webinars, which went really well. And that kind of culminated in our virtual gala, which is the first and hopefully the only time we have to do that. But I know many of you attended. Thank you for your support. And then I mostly wanted to pivot to 2021 and go through kind of what you can expect this year. So our carousel opened sort of on the normal schedule late March. We do have reduced days right now, just as the tourist industry kind of picks back up. So we're still just Friday through Sunday, but starting May 17th, we're going to add Monday and Thursday and extend to 7 p.m. And then starting June 14th will be all days 11 to 8. We did use the sort of time, the pandemic time, to rerun a couple of our requests for proposal processes for partners. So this is one that we did run this year, the operator for the carousel, which we contract out. So it is a different operator. The operator we've had since we opened was based in New York, and this was like a one tiny attraction they had in Massachusetts. So they like totally amicably decided to kind of consolidate their businesses. And so we're working with Block by Block, who does already supplemental services on the Greenway, the trash and mowing and snow removal. They do this type of ambassadorial work in many of their locations. So they are getting on board this spring with running the carousel. We also reran our artisan market RFP. And again, we chose a new partner. So we're working with the folks behind Somerville Flea, who've been running a successful outdoor, in Somerville, it's an artisan and antique market in Davis Square. And they've worked with sort of the city of Cambridge on a number of market setups. On the Greenway, it will look very similar, focused on local artisans. They will be starting this Saturday, and they'll only be doing Saturdays this year. And it will be very similar to what you may have seen last year, where the tents have extra spacing between them and there's sort of safety protocols built in. So it will start again, like, I think there's like 18 vendors for this weekend. So starting small as vendors get, more comfortable coming back and there's enough crowds to support that. But we're really excited to, see the first one come back this Saturday. The Trillium Garden on the Greenway ended up opening pretty late last year as they were kind of figuring out a couple things on their end. But this year they're on track to open on May 20th. They actually just today, after I made this presentation, some of the food regulations around beer gardens will be lifted later this month or later in May. But for right now, we'll still plan to have a food truck paired with Trillium every day. And when they first open, it will still be required that you order food with your beverage. So I just listed the hours there and which truck will be on site every day. It's a lot of the same trucks that were there last year. City Winery is hopefully opening this Saturday. They're in their final stages of permitting. Their hours are very similar, and their setup's exactly the same, and they have their own food service. So I know this is a little further away, but just wanted to let you know on Dewey. Our food trucks were really hard hit last year, even though they were allowed to stay open. As you all know, it was so quiet that it didn't work at all for them. They're trickling back in. You know, we have a handful now, and throughout April, May, June, they start to come back as they get their staffs back up and their trucks running. So I just put the link here to our website because that will be where you'll get the most up-to-date information about which trucks are out. To start, we're really focusing on Dewey and Rose Wharf, so you'll see those fill up first, and then some of those cross streets will follow. The Boston Public Market will be back June 3rd. They're going to start with just Thursdays this year. Again, they only had a handful of vendors that returned last year and were able to be successful. So they just wanted to start up small and focus on Thursdays with the option to expand to Tuesdays later in the season. And then this is a lot of information, but yep.
Where would that be located? Which parcel? The Boston.
That's on Dewey as well.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I'll just go through. So usually I have a bunch of events that I'm telling you about. We don't have a bunch this year, but we do have some that are sort of tentatively holding dates or have some safety plans in place, but everything is changing all the time. So we're working really closely with the city and these partners to make sure they're following all the guidelines. Street Stage by Boston Lyric Opera, which happened one time in the fall, unfortunately on a rainy day. They're planning to return right to Rose Wharf Plaza. This is a really cool, they built this entire thing for COVID. So it's basically plexiglassed in to still be able to hear live music, and then all spaced out on the lawn. So they're returning also this Saturday, and then another date later in June. They're kind of doing a tour around the greater Boston area. And if you're interested in that, if you go to their website, I believe you just reserve your spot to listen. And then the ALS Foundation, so the folks behind the Ice Bucket Challenge, they are doing the CEO Soak event. So the idea is that all these CEOs that they're bringing on board will be fully dressed in their suit and run through Rings Fountain. That's on a Thursday morning, so I shouldn't be too disruptive. I think they have an inside part of their event that's at the name of the restaurant just went totally out of my head, but right across from Rings Fountain there. So they'll be there and kind of go through in shifts.
The Granary?
The Granary, yes, thank you. Boston Green Fest was here for the first year in 2019. So they're interested in returning. They'll likely just be on 2 parcels, so High Street to Milk Street. This is a series of booths, sort of a mixture of information about green technologies or just anything you can imagine in sort of the eco lens. Some vendors, they're working with the city. They usually do electric car testing, ride and drive type thing. So there's still a lot of details to be worked out on this one because it's further out and we don't quite know what the guidance will be. It looks like things will be there's new festival guidance that came out today, so we'll be looking at that closely. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The 9/11 Service Project will be returning. So I think everyone's probably pretty familiar with that. They're packing boxes for active military or veterans. They're still figuring out their details as well. I'm sorry, I don't have more information on these ones that are further out. It's just too many unknowns. And then Boston Local Food Festival is sort of rebranding this year as Boston Local Food Hall. They will also sort of shrink their footprint, focus on the promenade, so that I think what we're all trying to do is balance having enough people to make the event worth it, but not making it an unsafe level of people, and just working really closely with the city and state on those guidelines. So those are the big things happening in the Wharf District. There's also a number of fitness classes. That schedule is being finalized now, so this is really a draft. And I usually share like the full list of everything with Suzanne, so I'll make sure to do that once it's finalized. But just to give you a sense, the High Street parcel, so parcel 17, where this picture is, HIIT classes on Mondays, yoga on twice a month on Thursdays, once a month. Trill Fit will be coming Saturday mornings, and the tango group, that's still not quite allowed with the dancing, so we'll be watching that one, but as soon as that is allowed, they would want to return on Saturday evenings. At the India Street parcel, yoga on Mondays, a rep class Wednesdays, and a bar class by the French Cultural Center, which that's a new one. It will actually be bilingual, so that will be really cool. And then probably cornhole returning like it has for many years on the Milk Street parcel. And then just wanted to briefly talk about volunteer opportunities. I know we normally plan a Wharf District Day, but we felt like it was a little early in talking to Suzanne and Judy and I believe it was Sheila. Just felt it was a little early to kind of be gathering, but happy to revisit that if people start to feel more comfortable. And we also have monthly gardening projects. We're starting back up our tour guide volunteer program. And we also have plant records assistants that help track the blooms of the flowers. So if that captures any of your attention, feel free to reach out to me or visit our website. And that's all that I have for programs. Is there any questions before we go to Lucas?
Wonderful lineup. Thank you, Keelan.
Great.
Lucas, you're going to tell us about the art?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone's faces for the most part. And thank you for always being friends and partners to us. I'm going to share my screen as well. So just let me know if everybody can see this. I'm going to go to present mode. Yep. This is what I'll say is going, as Keelan kind of did a little bit of backtrack in regards to 2020, back in 2020, we were able to be one of the only organizations to still commission and present public art during a time where lockdown was happening, museums were closing. And I think we were so proud to still, in amongst all the uncertainty, be able to present some really interesting and really topical installations along the Greenway in 2020. We made the decision last year as well too that we were going to still continue presenting high quality installations as the uncertainty is still out there with COVID and the closures and limited hours, or the fact that many museums are also kind of holding back on some of their installations. But this body of work, which I'm going to show you right now, has actually been in the planning for about 5 years. It takes usually about 2 to 3 years to sometimes create and commission the works that we do, but this is a little bit of a different exhibition that we presented before. This is the first season in which we were going to kind of test an idea that was produced as part of the 2012 public art strategy that was created by Brene Pochacki and Jennifer McGregor in connection with the Rose Kennedy Greenway and creating a public art program. We are going to be presenting one artist throughout the entire Greenway in a varieties of different modalities, whereas in normal years we would produce between 6 to 12 artworks by different artists. Daniel Gordon is actually a photographer who was born in Boston, raised in San Francisco, and now lives in New York. And Daniel Gordon is really kind of at this amazing intersection within his work, where Daniel mines the internet for vases, for plants, for objects, where he prints them out and then rebuilds them in three-dimensional form, creates these still life vignettes, and then rephotographs them. So usually the end process is actually a photograph that you would put on your wall. I met Daniel back in 2016 at the art at Miami's Art Basel, New American Art Dealers booth. And I really just fell in love with his work. I originally really thought about him solely doing the Greenway mural, but after a multitude of different studio visits and seeing his process, I really became enchanted with the way in which he was creating these sculptural props for this work and what it would mean to maybe create a large scale sculpture from these miniature pieces that he's photographing in. So through a variety of different conversations, we're going to be presenting 4 different bodies of work of Daniel Gordon along the Greenway. We're going to first start off with his first ever painting of a large-scale mural on Dewey Square. This will be the first time that his photographs have ever been translated into a painterly type of artwork. A lot of Daniel's work is actually considered painterly in the way in which he is setting up his still lifes that are either reminiscent of Renaissance, but really taking it into a contemporary way with the objects and fruits and the changing of the colors and the graphic identities that he's placing within it. So Daniel Gordon is actually going to be the 8th artist to be presented on the Rose Kennedy Greenway's Greenway Wall with his piece entitled Summer Still Life with Lobsters and Fern. Lobsters a nod to our New England heritage. They may be blue, brown, and red, but they are still New England. And this is one of my absolute favorite photos presenting every year, just showing the breadth of different types of art movements we've been able to show, as well as the partnerships that we've also created in presenting these works. As you'll see, we've partnered with the MFA, we partnered with MIT List, we partnered with De Cordova, we partnered with the ICA, and in some years we do internal curations. So Daniel is now added to this list. We have our first still life essentially on the Rose Kennedy Greenway Wall. The Greenway Wall will begin being painted actually. The arch painting will be coming out to scrape and prime the work starting May 7th. And the painting of the work will actually take place from May 10th through May 17th. So please, I really encourage you to come out to see the work come to life. I love that this piece has become, I love that this work has really become cylindrical and in its way in which it marks spring. So please come out and see this work unfold. Another aspect that we're going to be doing is showcasing a large amount of photography of Daniel Gordon's. We're going to be presenting both large scale and small format photography. And we're also going to be printing this through a new process that Daniel's never used before, which is called dye sublimation, which is actually printing directly onto and baking onto metal. It's actually one of the most probably sturdiest ways to produce prints for outdoor space, as it's kind of essentially quote unquote graffiti proof. You can't scratch it. If you paint on it or it gets spray painted or markers get on it, it is easily removed, but does not stain, which is a wonderful process. And this is the first time Daniel will be also presenting these works outdoors. We'll be presenting a series of photographs, large scale photographs up in the north end on parcel 10. And then a smaller breadth of photography will be happening on parcel 19, where we will also be presenting Daniel Gordon's first ever large-scale sculptural work that has been produced and replicated from a piece that was about 5 inches tall. It will now be 12 feet tall and in the round, to really demystify his process in creating his sculptural work, or these sculptural props. As you can see, it's fully walkable. You can walk around it, and it's actually the way in which Daniel is picking up scraps of paper and building these off of his studio floor is really interesting. We've been working with a firm out in California that has been working very closely with both the Greenway and Daniel, replicating this to the T of his actual maquettes that he uses in photography. So he's using the Greenway as a table or a vignette or a background for these sculptural props. We're going to be reusing the large concrete plinth that we had to place in order to showcase Yinka Shanabere's work that is still currently on view on parcel 19 across from the Intercontinental Hotel. This work will be installed June 9th and will be up for a full year. Actually, all of the work will be up for a full year. And this is just some more imagery of what it'll look like from the back. And then finally, another way in which we're translating his work is creating these large-scale tapestries that will be hung from the light blades that are a little bit different than his larger still life photographs. These are still imagery kind of macroed into his photographs that are then more manipulated within the computer that really deal with the shadows and the graphics in which he is creating his backgrounds around. They'll be about 12 feet by 10 feet, and they'll actually be shifted a little bit more central. They're extremely lightweight. They're made of the same material that is used in the rotunda for the large scale flags that you see blowing in the wind. It won't be that large, but it'll be large enough. And there'll be 4 flags, 2 on parcel 15 and 2 on parcel 16 that will really, I think, engage with this work in a very different way, in the way it's moving and blowing in the wind, how you see it in the eastern rising sun to the western setting sun, and how the work interacts with the shadows of the buildings throughout the day. So we're really excited to present this work. And I want to thank many of you who are friends of the Greenway or on our board or have been patrons of us for many years. I want to thank also Bob and Doris Gordon, who have been steadfast supporters of the public art program and also have supported the Greenway mural for many, many years, and I hope many more to come. So thank you for that. And to all the rest of you who have also helped support the Greenway and the Greenway program. These are just some other illustrative imagery of these works. And then I just wanted to also highlight the work that we had done and completed for the Year of the Ox in Chinatown, the work of Andy Lee, who is a Boston-based installation and fiber artist that really deals with text. We installed a piece called The Herd that's really based around the concepts around the ox as a hard worker, as an animal that is constantly pushing itself in betterment. We've created a series of 5 different flag sayings that are both in Chinese and in English that are synonymous with Daniel's work. This one says, keep doing what you do. We have others that state, take your time to get there. It's very inspirational, but it's a really beautiful installation that if you're walking through and you're hearing the fountain, if you're hearing the wind, it's in a very strong wind corridor. So you get a really beautiful kind of fully immersive experience in walking through this work. So this is just finally a map of where all the works will be located. Up in the north end, we have the portion of the photography exhibit. In the Wharf District location here on parcel 15 and 16, again, are the flag-based tapestries. In the Fort Point Channel Parks, which I recently learned are still part of the Wharf District. Thank you, Suzanne Lavoie. We have the sculptural work as well as the smaller photograph exhibit. And then we have the large scale mural and then Andy Lee's work in Chinatown. So you'll see that if you walk the park, you'll have a large breadth of work to take in, very different types of work. So please get out there and enjoy that this summer. Everything should be installed by June 10th. And I just also want to say this on a personal, this is my last Wharf District meeting. I will be leaving the Greenway as of June 25th. But it has been my honor and my pleasure to bring over 50 exhibitions to fruition here on the Greenway in partnership with a lot of you and discussions with a lot of you and helping to bring this to the Greenway as well too, and to the residents of Boston and our tourists. It's been a true pleasure. So thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to present here today, as well as the past 7 years. So thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Lucas, it's a great presentation. It's a very, very exciting lineup. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for sharing your talent and your vision on the Greenway. And you know, you're not going to hear loud applause, but think of it as loud applause, okay? Because you've done a great job, and we wish you much luck in where your future takes you, and we all benefit through from your hard work.
Thank you so much.
Any questions of Keelan or Lucas? We have a few more things that are very important for us to cover. If not, great. Thank you both. We're going to pivot to a conversation that is ongoing about our climate resilience task force. We are entering a very important phase of this effort. I think we still have a number of participants on who recognize the fact that we're trying to come up with a master plan for a concept for how we can collectively work together to keep the Atlantic Ocean where it belongs. I'm going to share with you just very briefly the example of something or other that is the result of the subcommittee's hard work, which is, if you can see this, this is the, and I'm not expecting you all to read it, but what's important to know is that we have put together a description of what the task force is trying to accomplish. And it explains the reason for doing it and the process by which we intend to go engage people to help us. And by us, I mean the Wharf District and the property owners along the harbor. The stage that we're at now, I think that Wes, perhaps you want to speak to how we're hoping to be able to get volunteers to reach out to the assigned property, to the identified property owners. Is that to get them engaged? Is that fair?
No, but yeah, we're about to implement a program where we're going to try to collect as much information as we can on the individual sites. The thought is the more information that we can do in advance of getting the consultant on board, the better off we're going to be as far as keeping the costs down and also finding out where some of the data gaps might be that we might need to be filled as we go forward. So we've actually identified the various properties that are along the waterfront, put a list together as to what information would be useful to us. We'll be looking for you to assemble it, but not necessarily provide it to us because of various concerns that you may have about the information being mishandled, let's say. But we'd like to get you started sooner rather than later. And we'll be making contacts regarding getting that information underway.
Great. So what we are going to, we need about $250,000 we've figured out for this effort. We have asked Representative Miklowicz to try to put some money in the state budget for this effort, and he has agreed to try to do so. And I don't know, Rick, if we've been able to tell yet whether or not that has occurred. But Rick is going to keep an eye on that for us. No info yet on that, right?
None that I've seen, Mark. I don't know if you got any direction from the chairman's office as to how he was going to proceed. I did check the budget amendments and didn't see anything there. So I'm not sure if in conversation with Patrick from his staff or I forget who you spoke with.
I spoke directly with Aaron. So okay. We'll have to reach back and see how that's going. But anyway, as a part, we're hoping that that'll happen. In addition to which, we're hoping that each one of the property owners along the waterfront will contribute $10,000 toward raising the money that we need for this study. We have a number of commitments already, but we do need other people. John Larrabee, I know that you have volunteered to reach out to some of these folks, and we weren't fully prepared prior to now to be able to ask people to help us to reach out. We now have the information to be able to share with them. And so, John, I know you've volunteered to help with this. We would, if you would reach out to me or to Suzanne or to Norm or somebody that you're comfortable reaching out to be willing to help with this effort. Now is the time for us to get everyone along the waterfront who owns property engaged and involved and prepared to be able to participate as we move into the stage once we get the money, where we will engage engineers and begin the process of discussing each individual property owner's response and how they relate to each other.
Okay.
Did I fairly summarize that, Norm, or anybody else you want to add anything to that?
So I'd like to add one thing.
Please.
Last week, the Harbor Towers trustees had a meeting with Councilor Flynn. And so this was one of the subjects we brought up. He's very much in support of this study being done. And, in the spirit of this being a public-private partnership, I mentioned that Aaron Miklowicz was potentially going to write it into the budget to get some state help, and asked if he would be supportive of the city also contributing something to the kitty to really round this out in partnership. And he said he was supportive of that, and he would be sending a letter to the appropriate people in the city to request that.
Great. That's wonderful, Norm. Thank you. And Joe Christo, I see you on the line also. We had a very productive meeting, I thought, with you and with Rich McGinnis. And you know, people have often asked, are we doing something or other that is you know, trying to circumvent the city's activities? And I will let you speak for yourself as to how you feel about what we're trying to accomplish.
This is awesome. You know, it's the exact type of mobilization and activity we really are excited to see and encourage, and that I just think complement what both the city and the BPDA are doing so well. That all hands on deck approach is exactly what's needed for, you know, the massive challenges we face and opportunities we have.
Great. Okay. So we need some more volunteers, and you don't all have to raise your hands at this very instant, but we probably need another 5 or 6 people to join this the task force. And some of you have already volunteered, but if you could just make sure that we know that you're willing. We're not asking you to do more than, you know, 6 hours worth of work over the next 3 months. So it's not a heavy lift, but some assistance would be much appreciated. Anybody else want to say anything about that? Okay, that's the task force. So Suzanne, you and I talked earlier about the update on State Street. Do you want to help us on that?
Sure. We have been talking with the State Street project team regarding what's going on and what our expectations are versus what theirs are. And they have listened to us. They're working on concepts. So they are not prepared or weren't prepared to come to this meeting to talk to us. What they have proposed to do is in the month of May is to have an abutters meeting, which Wharf District Council members would be included in this, to discuss the plans that they're going to or consider proposing. And then subsequent to that, having a meeting that would be considered a Wharf District Council meeting where they will present what they are proposing to the council as a whole. It probably will not be on May 18th, which is our next meeting, but we will have a special or separate meeting to go over the State Street project. But we have not seen anything, but they have assured us that they are working on several concepts, with one of them taking into what we would like definitely into consideration.
Suzanne, there was some question about whether or not Lee was able to join us on this. You know?
I was unable to contact her. I did send her an email, so she did not respond to me. So okay. I'm assuming she couldn't make the meeting. What they have been doing is individual outreach to some of the business owners on State Street. And they did reach out to Mark Hagopian and Lee last week. And what they were talking was not the whole street concept, but the specific area in front of the hotel. And what they were proposing was to extend the sidewalk. And there was some confusion. I saw the presentation and I sent it to Mark, and I don't think it was clear in terms of what they were proposing to do. They showed what existed, but not what was proposed in the presentation.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to say that there is continued effort on the part of what department are they actually?
DPW.
DPW, that's right, thank you. To progress the idea of the single lane. And what I saw from those slides that they were suggesting was, again, single lane, widened sidewalks, no indication of any diversion from that concept. So to the extent that we continue to feel that that's a problem, we are going to have to continue to put pressure on. And we have a meeting next week with Councilor Flynn's office to, again, mention the fact that we do not want this idea imposed upon us. And by us, I mean the Wharf District and the North End, both of whom are vehemently opposed to what is being suggested as a design for State Street. So I don't know, we'll see where it goes. Next month on May 18th, we are going to be joined by Chris Cook, who is the new executive director of the Greenway, which is wonderful. And we look forward to, he's certainly a familiar person to all of us, and as in his previous role with the city and his focus on the environment. It's a great transition for him. Rich McGinnis is going to join us also, and I think he's going to be able to talk a little bit about our approach to the Climate Resilience Task Force, and also maybe give us some kind of update on how the city is interpreting their response to the judge's rejection of the municipal harbor plan.
He originally thought that he would be able to present that this evening, but the plans have not been finalized. So he felt that it wasn't going to be beneficial for him to come here and say, I don't have anything to tell you. So we look forward to hearing from him in May.
Right. And if we have that and DPW as well, we're going to have a very busy May 18th. Anybody else have anything that they would like to bring up before we go into an executive session? No, I don't see any hands.
I do have something, and that is the plaza that is between Harbor Towers, the aquarium, and the garage. As the abutters know, I wrote a letter stating my concerns about the condition of the plaza. It's sort of like an orphan, and the true owners of the plaza, it turns out to be the city, the streets, not the DPW, the BPDA as we originally thought. However, the good news is that they did mulch the beds and they did cut down the dead tree. The concern that I have now is maintaining the plaza now that people have come back in terms of trash. It seems to be a really big issue on the weekends. So I'm wondering as abutters how, and Wharf District members, and this is part of our Wharf District, does anybody have any suggestions as what we should or could do to ensure that this plaza looks suitable when people start once again returning to our area? It's particularly with the trash. That's my main concern. The trash cans were literally overflowing this weekend. So it attracts rats and trash is blowing. People.
So John Romano, that's owned by City of Boston Streets. So
the one thing I was going to just say. Oh, sorry, Suzanne. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go right ahead.
The one piece I was going to say on that, and then I do have a quick update I'd like to share after as well, is that just during the pandemic, Suzanne, like you had just said, like throughout most of the pandemic, that park had not seen a lot of action. And now across the city, we're starting to see, with the nicer weather, life coming back. So you'll start to see more and more. The one thing I encourage is continue to put in 311 reports, just because it will help us track where activity is coming back. And so we can start having some of those services come back to the level of what they used to pre-pandemic, in like pre-pandemic numbers. During the pandemic, we had scaled back on certain services and certain staff because there wasn't the need to change the empty bag down at the park, but now we know that's very much not the case, and it's very much become a popular area again. So it's just good for us to know and flag so we can start allocating services back to those areas.
Great, thanks, John. And you have some more that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I'll end up sending out, because between the governor today and the mayor's press conference, we had shared an update about what kind of the future reopening steps look like. I know a lot of people here have seen that there's guidance on events as well as festivals and parades. And the one thing I just wanted to highlight was that the city of Boston is going to be about 3 weeks behind where the state is in its reopening guidance. Mark and Suzanne, I'm going to send you all a write-up that you could share with your members that will be a little bit more thorough than me going through bullet point by bullet point, and probably a little bit more exciting than me going through bullet point by bullet point here tonight. For us to be able to share. And if people have questions or comments or concerns, just feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to walk you through some of the guidance. I know we have a ton of events that are going to come up at different timeframes, and the timeframes can always be a little bit flexible based on public health data, but we'll continue to get through this. I'm just excited, and I'm sure you all are as well, that it looks like we are getting closer to the other side of this.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, John. Anybody else before we do executive session? Looks like not. Okay. Thank you all. Please, members, voting members, stay on, and everyone, we will see you on May 18th. I believe that we just have two things we want to talk about, which are the entertainment licenses, right? The first one for Liberty and the second one for Joe's.
Correct.
Discussion first about Liberty, for Liberty.
It sounds reasonable to me. I don't know them as an operator at their other site. I know where this new location is, but it sounds as though it's not going to be the main thing that is active at the place.
Yeah. I was going to suggest that we give our support based upon their the quality and commitment of the security protocols and staffing that they have in place, and that we make it a condition of that. Our support a condition of that, which is why I was asking for it. Does that seem reasonable?
I think that's the right approach, that they produce an acceptable security plan, and they execute accordingly, right?
Right. That's the only thing we actually care about, I think. Okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No abstentions. Okay. Okay. How about Joe's?
No. I think they have a lot of work to do with their neighbors. I mean, I thought the residents of Commercial Wharf raised some good points in terms of going over and above the potential noise, but I'm not sure you need that for activation of that site. I think there's more work to be done with that neighborhood, that part of the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised there was no response by the Joe's representatives once they heard the concerns. They just
I think they knew they were going to get it.
But they could have at least acknowledged that they heard it and they were going to do something about it. They just they sat on their 3 speakers, otherwise, but everyone else said there were 4 and did nothing about it.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think the whole idea of having to listen to someone else's music while you're in the park is wrong.
Yeah.
Anybody feel it differently? Okay. So I would propose that the Wharf District Council express its dissatisfaction and displeasure with the idea of that happening.
What we would do is just say that we don't support it.
That one, what she said.
Sounds good. Yeah. They didn't put up much of a fight, so it's like.
Yep.
Nah.
I mean, I do think it was notable that folks generally had good things to say about Joe's. The restaurant, and the place they go, and it's really just this aspect, right, that they have an issue with.
Yeah,
agreed.
Okay, all in favor of what Suzanne said, that we don't support it? Okay. Anyone object or abstain? Okay. Anything else that we need to discuss? Cool. All right. See y'all May 18th.
Mark,
Oh,
I
yeah?
had one question in terms
Sure.
of, I know it may have been Wes. There was a list he was putting together of the various property owners. I know I've been busy, that we were going to review and kind of try to divvy up the list on who might reach out to who.
Yeah.
Is that an open homework assignment for me? Because I've been kind of busy the last couple of weeks.
I don't think we have that list yet, do we?
Okay.
Isn't that was the list that I circulated about a little, maybe like a week and a half ago, was
Just
a
before
combination. It was a combination of the property owner, the context that we knew, but there were a lot of yellow. There were yellow in there for properties we didn't know who the contexts were. Okay. So I think we have. If you look at that email, Eric, from like, I think it was from Friday the 16th.
Yeah.
It's this, the diligence checklist is kind of merged with the list of the owners.
But what we didn't have there is, Alice from Harvard Now said that she was going to get a bunch of names to add to that, and we didn't get that.
That's right. They're from general, like from stakeholders that weren't necessarily property owners per se.
Right.
Like the marina and stuff.
Right, and a few others. Suzanne, do you want to reach out to Alice? Do you want me to?
I'm happy to reach out.
That's
to
great.
Alice.
Just so that we all remember, we are trying to have a comprehensive list of everybody who has something meaningful to do with the waterfront of the Wharf District, and that includes operators, lessees, lessors of wharfs and docks and boats, services and buildings, and just so that we get everybody involved in this so that they all know what we're doing and that they're all involved. And just having that list is a challenge. Alice has a bunch of those folks, and we have a bunch of other names, but as soon as we can pull that list together, we want to start assigning ambassadors from the task force to reach out to those people.
Mark, we're looking for $10,000 per building donation.
Correct. And it's a bit of a sell, needless to say. So we have to explain what it is the objective is, and that's what that first sheet is that Rob put together with the subgroups efforts. And there's an appendix to that that's more detailed that people may or may not want or need. But
do we have a list of the properties who have already agreed to give monies?
Well, we have a number of commitments. I believe the Harbor Towers and Rose Wharf and Jafaro, thank you very much. Yeah, and I know the aquarium is thinking about that too. So we're moving that direction.
Okay.
What we've said to everybody is that we don't actually need any of the money until we've got the big chunk.
Right.
And so we have to get the big chunk. Suzanne, what's the best way to find out whether or not it's Aaron put it into the budget?
I mean, I would suggest we have a quick call maybe with Rick, because Rick's tracking all that type of stuff, and he didn't think it was in as of yesterday. That doesn't mean it wouldn't go in, but
okay. Well, maybe we need to shoot a reminder to him.
Well, we'll also ping John, because John used to be in this role as chair of Ways and Means, and what he said is that sometimes these things literally just show up at the very end.
Yeah.
The final document, that there's no formal amendment process.
Because they're still working on the budget right now. It's going through the process.
Okay. So Matt, you're going to check with John. Eric, check with Rick. Suzanne, I don't know if there's anybody that you want to ping, but this whole thing hinges on that.
Call Aaron, but I mean, if you
that'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be wonderful. All right. So this, the whole thing hinges on that, because there's no way that I don't think we can raise $250,000 otherwise. city might kick in some, but, and hopefully they will, but
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on the city anteing up anything, so.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either.
Have we put a formal ask into the city for it to participate?
no, well, not a formal one. We talked to Rich about it and he was going to think about who we would even ask and how. So
The one thing we might look at, the Community Preservation Act, I don't know if if money could be taken from that they give out money to the community.
From the city?
The city controls that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's something,
Yeah.
something like this would be accessible.
And I think about a week ago, Mayor Janney announced $12 million from the city for resiliency. And if that's true, we should be trying to get a piece of that pie.
Yeah. Well, Rich said he was gonna check, and so hopefully that is a route. Norm, did you guys meet with C. Lynch? Did that happen?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh. Okay. Is that
it's hard to schedule?
Oh, really?
Yeah. He actually wants to do it mask to mask and come to the property.
Yeah, somehow I thought that was supposed to happen last week. I don't know why I thought that. But.
We met with Ed Flynn last week, I think we mentioned, but that.
Yeah. Right.
But I think it's probably, we're looking at May dates now.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to schedule another task force meeting to once we get that list from Suzanne. Once you talk to Alice, to remind her to shoot us that list and try to compile the spreadsheet and then assign volunteers and then try to reach out for get people signed up as best we can.
Okay, I have something. Now, you talked about volunteers. I think for you all to say volunteers, I think people need to understand what they're volunteering for.
Right.
So I think you, if you can kind of give a job description of what you'd like these folks to do.
Good point. Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, I'll write that up. Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Well, I have something that's not related to this, but I was talking to Kathy Abbott last night, and they are looking for a temporary location because they have to get out of their building, the government building they're in, and they're looking for 2,000 square feet for about 18 months. We didn't discuss whether or not they pay, but I'm just wondering if anybody knows of anybody around here that I might be able to pass their name to her in terms of looking for space.
Boy, the nice thing about that is that it's a water dependent use, right? So it's falls into all that Chapter 91 stuff.
Yeah.
Suzanne, we'd be happy to talk to her. If you want to, I mean, I can call her. I can just reach out to her. You don't have to call me.
Reach out to her. I told her that, I would mention it to the Wharf District Council folks and also the State Street folks that we've been dealing with, Mark, in terms of space.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, Rob, if you want to reach out to her.
Yeah, well, we'll check in with her and see what their requirement is. And
Yeah.
Just office space? Is it just office space, Suzanne? Do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't go into dates other than 18 months and 2,000 square feet, so.
And as little money as possible.
Well, I didn't even want to touch that.
Just pointing that out.
That
I'll
goes
let
up.
Rob handle that, yeah.
Does anybody know who those folks are who are in the first floor of Rose Wharf on the walkway through from, if you're coming from Harbor Towers through the.
I mean, Focus?
Oh, yeah. Who is that?
Focus on Boston is a private company that does focus groups.
Oh.
Yeah, they actually ran a focus group for us at Harbor Towers once.
Did they? Yeah.
When I was employed, I actually used them to do focus groups in New England.
Ah, good. Okay. Cool.
Wow. You look
good.
My kids want to know when Pasta Beach is reopening. Does anyone know?
No, but they're making some progress, right?
I was told that it'd be probably renovated by mid-June, but not operational to mid-July.
That's good news, though.
It is good news. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. Looking forward to it. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye all.
Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.